And so today, the Slam Box B slamming, what we got going on is I want to do a few things. Number one, I want to install a hitch to the back of this truck because any good work truck needs a hitch and the ability to tow a trailer. Number two, I want to fully make a custom bumper because this service bed did not come with one. And number three, any of the gaps in the back that still need to be filled in, I want to take some of the sheet metal that I have laying around or some of the scraps that I have laying around from where I cut up the bed originally and replace those in the areas that I see fit to put them. And also, Slam Box tees are live right now on the site. Link in the description below. 2 different designs. Every single dollar of profit made is going right back into the truck and the channel, so that way I continue to make this content. So let's get right into it today, man. It's gonna be a good one.
And now, you're watching the Not All Can Crushers Are Bag Trucks, but All Bag Trucks Are Can Crushers channel of YouTube. Welcome to BodeVision.
Hey, so what is up and welcome, and thank you so much for joining me yet again on another video. So on my list right now, number one of 3 things to do is the trailer hitch. Now I don't want to put this in a traditional location below the bumper because below the bumper is not going to exist, if you know what I'm saying. So I want to put it in a location that it would be proper height to tow a trailer. I think it looks really cool when a truck is slammed but the trailer hitch is way above the bumper, just because it complements and shows that a lot of engineering went into the build to make sure that it was going to work properly. And it just kind of looks, I don't know, you might love it, you might hate it, but I definitely love it. To see the trailer hitch way above the license plate and right by the tailgate, it looks really weird, and that's what I'm going for with this. So let's go ahead and get that placed in, tacked in, welded in, and then we'll move on to the bumper. Now that I got the hitch receiver right where I want it, and what I was shooting for was between 15 and 17 inches by the time the truck is at ride height. That is what I looked up and saw that it should be, so that's exactly where I put it. So the next thing that I want to focus on is the tailgate. This is going to make the back of this truck look like the back of this truck, because as some of you guys may or may not know, the service bed is actually sitting backwards from how it was designed to sit on there from the factory. So if we take the tailgate and put it on the correct side, well, really, the more and more stuff that we do to this truck, the less and less it is going to look like the boxes on there backwards. By the time we have the hitch, the tailgate, and the bumper, you'll never even know again that it's not sitting the correct way. So let's go ahead and get the tailgate thrown up there. What I want to do, since I'm just here, I want to get it as good as I can, left and right. Then I just take my drill with a self-tapper. I run one in the right side, and then I can compare the left side, make sure everything is centered and make sure it is looking exactly where it needs to be. Then I can run another self-tapper. Now there's only 2 self-tappers holding the entire thing, where there's really 3 holes on the right side, 3 holes on the left side. So I'm going to leave those self-tappers in there, then drill holes in all of the other locations, run a 10 nut and bolt, which we don't want to just leave those self-tappers in there because they will vibrate out. So we really just want to use the self-tappers as tacks to get nuts and bolts in the other holes. By the time those nuts and bolts are there, we can pull the self-tappers out and replace it with nuts and bolts. That way we can get everything exactly where it needs to be. It's going to stay solid, and then we can put in proper hardware. So let's make that happen. Alright, so now at this point we have our hitch in there, and a way to tell if your hitch is on there solid, hit it with a hammer. See if it seems good. If it seems good, it's pretty good. No, but in all reality, I'm going to want to reinforce that quite a bit. I just kind of wanted to put it where it is going to be, so that way I can move on and build everything else as it's where it is. Then I can come back and do all the reinforcements that I need. So the tailgate, everything is looking good. Pretty self-explanatory. One of the easiest things that you can put on a truck, because there's a bracket right here, bracket right there. It doesn't get much more simple than that. And this can come all the way down, or we can have it sit like this if we would like. And this is all dented up, all messed up, but it matches the entire truck. So that's looking right as I was expected. What are we getting snagged on right here? Nothing if you push it hard enough. Nah, I'll figure out what's going on with that. So the next thing that I want to get into was the actual custom fabrication of the bumper itself. So getting right into the bumper, I wanted to have it set up pushed against the box 100%, so I knew those runners were at the correct width, as well as making sure the bumper was centered between the two boxes. Later on, it's going to be pulled back just a little bit, and I can completely weld that out right behind me. But before that, I wanted to get into this angle iron piece. This angle iron piece is going to be where my vertical and horizontal piece of sheet metal is going to meet. The one that is sitting parallel to the ground, the horizontal one, that one's going to have all types of designs and shapes, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. But we are using that piece to set how far back we want the bumper to be from the boxes, because that is going to be our top surface. So everything with this entire process is just figuring out what I have to do in which order to make sure that everything is going to be spaced correctly and even. So now that my main bumper framework has been established, I want to get into that top step sheet metal. It's not really going to be a step because it is going to be right off of the ground. So I want to get into a design that is not only going to be functional, but it is also going to look really nice. So getting into this pattern, I started off with my speed square, and the speed square at the very first intersection, you know, that's exactly the center from top to bottom, and that's where I want my one hole to go. Then I'm going to come back and use that center point, and then I'm going to set up my speed square right there. You saw I marked that little hole. Now I am just doing the same exact pattern, running from corner to corner to corner to corner with a speed square as soon as you have the first two marks set up. As long as you use the speed square to run down the entire thing, you know you are going to be good. So every single intersection, that's where I am circling out. Oh, I missed one right there. That's where I am circling out all of my holes. So those holes are going to have a pattern that's 2, then 1, 2, then 1, 2, then 1, and all of the distances between every single hole, whether it's the hole from top to bottom or the hole from left to right, they are going to be the same distance from one another, because those are actually perfect squares. I would say equilateral squares, but a square is just a square. Either way, so I got it in the drill press, and now I'm punching out all of my holes. These are 3/4 inch holes because I'm using a 3/4 inch die. So I just have to keep running them down, working the entire thing. This took a really long time. And if you're just as cheap as I am, you'd rather spend a little bit of time than a lot of money to get a really high-end service truck bumper. So the next step is here, we want to take this and put all of our dimple die holes in it. Now these are going to be upside down or backwards compared to how they're usually ran, but the reason why we're doing that is because I actually have my 1/2 inch die right here. We're going with a 3/4 die. Is because we want it to be flared upward for grip, just like this was a bumper that guys would be crawling in and out of on the field. Even though this truck isn't going to see much crazy service stuff, we want it to look correct, right? Alright, so let's bring it out to the homemade hydraulic press. So I have a bunch of holes to press. I just got my die moving around, and the key is to not let the press go up way too high, because the higher it goes, the more I'm going to have to pump. So with the amount of holes that I'm doing, if I can be a little bit more efficient, I can save a lot of time. So as you can see, I'm just cranking out hole by hole by hole. Now this is actually going to cause the metal to warp just a little bit, kind of make an arch, but that's okay because it'll go right back to where it needs to go by the time I put it on the truck. It took a long time, man. There's really not too much else to say about it. I'll just put the music back on and you can watch me punch a few more holes, and then we'll put it on the truck, see what it looks like. That's it. Hole, 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 hole. Lots of holes, but it looks good. All right, so 81 holes later, and as you can see, it bowed up quite a bit, but it is all good. I'm not worried about that whatsoever, because the second I sit it down, I'm just going to straighten it out. Here we go. and it is bowed up, right? But I'm going to start with my rosette welds in the very middle and work my way to the out, going from middle to the left, middle to the right. It'll push it down nicely, and dude, how good. Let me zoom in on that for you. Dude, how good does this thing look, man? Work truck, service truck, nice step. Got the hitch on. Bumper getting there. Now also one thing that I wanted to mention with the bumper, I am going to reinforce it, attach it to the frame, and do all that stuff to just make sure it's as strong as it needs to be. But right now I'm just laying out where I want to put it. Now some of these holes are not spaced out perfectly even, but I would have liked to have them perfect, but it's hand built and I'm not going to be mad that they're not perfect because, again, built it myself. So that's how it goes. So let's go ahead and pull out the welder, get this thing rosette welded in. Then I have to worry about my vertical piece and then a couple more panels in here that I'm gonna have to make. Man, so how good does this look, dude? The upside down dimpled eyes for grip is so perfect, man. That looks really good. I had the idea to do upside down dimpled eyes because I feel like I've seen them before for grip, and I had the dies and everything, so it just took a little bit of figuring out, establishing the pattern, and then here we are. And then the rosette welds clean up really nicely. I wanted to make them a little bit chunky so that way they would look almost like some old school, like those nasty rivets that people would just heat up and press in there. So that's how that looks. Now the next piece that we have to do, starting from the bottom up, it's not the next piece that's going to go on, but I have it prepped and over here pretty much ready. I'm going to be rosette welding this as well to that piece of angle iron that I added in earlier. Now it would have made more sense if I put a 90-degree bend right here as opposed to having a 90-degree intersection, but if I did that, then I wouldn't have been able to do there we go, tight fit. But if I did that, I wouldn't be able to do all of this dimple die work just because the piece would become bigger than what I could handle. So that's gonna go right there. And let's do this. Let's throw in just a cleco or two just to make it look good. I think I'm going to be putting bolts through here because that's how an OEM truck looks, or an OEM utility bed. It looks like the bumper is bolted, even though a lot of the stuff is welded on. It's just, I don't know yet. I will figure that out when I get there, but you can really starting to see the rear end starting to take shape. And then it looks a little bit bare right now, but right here I have this little service dead light with a crooked bulb on it, dude. Come on, Schmamazon. The little bulb's kind of crooked, but maybe I can take it out and redo it. But this is gonna go somewhere right there, maybe higher, maybe lower. Either way, that's gonna go there. But I need a panel for this area. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's just over and up and nice and flat and clean. But the panel right here is kind of a little bit harder to wrap my head around because I have to consider all of this stuff here, and I'm probably going to be welding two really big shackles to connect chains to, just because I think that looks a little bit more steampunk-esque, well, maybe a little bit more utility-esque. There are hooks right here for the chains, but I do like the look of big fat shackles, so I might want to leave this open so that way I can do that there for your chains and whatnot. So my thought was, in the front, I had a whole bunch of metal that came out because the floor has been raised so much, so the amount of distance that it went up from factory, all of that metal needed to just be cut out. So I have right here this sheet metal. This is just a piece from the front. Now I was really debating on it. I think I would rather have a flat piece here, but considering the nature of this build, you know, building on a budget, and if it's gonna work, it's gonna work. I think it'll look good in the end. So I think this is gonna go something like that. If I can hold it together. That's gonna go there. Well, this piece needs to get out of there. Then that piece is gonna go in there. And then I have another one, mirror image, to go over there. You get the idea. So I think what I'm gonna do, start to get some of this stuff tacked in there. I wanna run another support bar all the way across here, so that way this has something to bolt onto all the way, making sure my bolts are equally spaced, because that's just something that's so easy to do. I did that with all of my rosette welds as well. It's so easy to make them nice and consistent, where it doesn't look really good if they're consistent, but it looks really bad if they're not. Just take your time and make that happen. So that's what I need to do, put a little bit more time into it, stop talking, and make it happen. Now that I have those recycled and repurposed panels in there, I want to focus on my vertical piece of sheet metal that is going to go in there. So I'm going to go ahead, drill out my rosette welds. I was talking about putting in bolts, but I'm just going to keep it moving. I'm going to rosette weld it. It's going to look really good, really nice. So let's get those drilled out. Then we'll throw the panel up there and then we'll get that welded on, man. This thing is looking really good. And also on the sides, I need to throw on little end caps as well, so it doesn't look open and ugly. All right, you know what time it is. Let's get it pulled out so that way we can really take a good look at this. Bin's open. Woo. And then also I wanted to address some of the comments as well. Let's see. I'm just gonna leave it on the slab. There it goes. Air it out. Hopefully this bumper is sitting nice and level. That's a good truck, bro. That's a good truck. Let me see. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So one thing that I wanted to address was a lot of people were asking me if I'd ever be able to get the tires off with it tucking this much. I mean, it is nearly tucking bottom lug nut, all of the lug nuts. But this panel is actually on a hinge. I just have the bolt out right now. So as you can see, you could see the tire well above the actual edge of the wheel, the rim, the edge rim edge, whatever you want to call it. And then by the time you go up, you will have no problem getting access to this tire whatsoever. Also, the bed is completely bottomed out right now, 100%. But I can get to the frame right here really easily to put a jack even with it aired out. So if I were to lose all of my air pressure, I would easily be able to get a jack under there. Then we could throw some wheel dollies underneath the tires and get it on a trailer or do whatever we would need to do. It is a little bit risky running like this, but that's what life's all about, right? Building cool stuff, taking some risks, making things happen. Looking good, looking good. Dude, I want to pull it out over there so that way we can really step back and look at this bumper. Let's just make that happen now, I guess. Woo, she scraped a little bit. I could have jacked it up a little bit more. We only got 80 PSI in the bag. Let's air this thing out and see if it'll lay. See if it'll lay like it's supposed to. I mean, why wouldn't it? I built it to do that. So let's see. There goes the front. Oh yeah, bro, she's laid out. Laid out. In the grass. What'd you think about that? Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I'm just over here looking, dude. That looks so good. Bro, how crazy good does this thing look? And I mean, what kind of service truck can you just hop on it, be hanging out? The bed is still gonna be a decent height as far as, I don't like it when trucks are super slammed and then the bed is just like a 4 or 5 inch bed. I think that looks a little bit silly. We still have at least 1.5 feet or so back here. The tailgate is in a good location. We upcycled or recycled that one panel. The bumper looks super good, dude. I'm not lying. Some of these service truck bumpers cost $2,000–$3,000 for something that looked half as good as what I did. And I really like the idea that I kept it true. Super boxy because this is the slam box. We have the boxes on the back. The bumper holds true to that shape. Now I could have 45'd off the corners and it would have looked good. It already looks good now, so I figured why do more and why do all of that extra work. But dude, how good, man. Those little upside down, ooh, we got stuff popping all over the place over here. That wasn't closed. That wasn't closed. Hopefully these aren't opening up just by vibrating. I don't think they are, but either way, man, look how good that stuff looks. So coming up, what I gotta do, I gotta get my tail lights figured out. I'm just gonna go with the old school round traditional tail lights because I think that looks pretty good. Then I'm gonna wanna do some more lighting. I'll deal with all of that to come. So as far as this video up to this point, let me know what you think about the project thus far. I hope to see you on the upcoming videos, and that's gonna be it. So like this video, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff. You know what it is, YouTube. We'll see you on the next one, man. It keeps getting better and better. I'm out.